Howdy folks, Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness. It's after midnight and we're starting a video segment I'm going to be calling Meandering Around the Map. I'll give credit to Nanguea for coming up with that title a couple of years ago. And so this is going to be a semi-irregular segment on my channel where I'm going to look at different kinds of maps that I collect. Yes, I am quite a addicted collector to collecting many different kinds of things, and one of them is maps. Mostly maps having to do with war games, role-playing games, board games, but also maps of historical interest that help give me ideas for design. We're gonna look at a few different kinds here as what we might look at in the future. Now, these might start sliding and falling down. I'm going to start picking them up from this side over, and then ending, we're going to maybe unbox, open the Ziplocs in a couple of one or two of these here maybe. So I like to have maps for designing things, okay? So here's about the simplest kind you can get. Blank hex sheets, all one color. These are all green. That's a forest green, or it could be a rich grassland. They're just nice and generic, as they say on here, for game designing and miniatures. I have many different brands of these, colors, etc. Some of them have textures on them. So these Battle Mark series, there's like a heavy woods, and on the back there's just grassland. This is supposed to be like scrub brush and more of that grassland. These are bigger hexes, but that's obviously water that you could use for naval things, or you could cut out some row of hexes and put them on another map to be maybe rivers. There's that also big size, and this is also that grassland color, but these are in the bigger hex size. Now, some of these have overlay type of objects that you could put in the hexes. Now, this particular one is an urban setting, and it's more of a high-level bird's eye view where the buildings are quite smaller, and they actually have the hex grid on here, but you have the rows, the avenues, the streets, etc., different size buildings. All right. These are, when you're zoomed in closer, the buildings are looking bigger. These are various wood buildings. Yeah, they're the same on both sides in this case. But various, looking from above. So these could be on churches, or some odd building. Could be a grain silo or something, and there could be, tenements, housing, etc. And these are stone buildings, which are, could be the same scale as this, but there's much larger buildings. So if that's like a round stone tower, and you have these pentagonal or hexagonal or octagonal wooden buildings, so I would say that on average these are going to be smaller, but these are probably the same scale here. All right, and there are differences on the back here. No, it's the same. There's that same. So in any case, those are examples, and I have many different brands of these, and so at some point I will do like a survey of the kind of things that I have for map construction, etc. Now, before I go to these here, I'm going to look at a few other things. Now, if you look down here, I like getting various hex grid space maps. So this is like a nebula, and I have a blue one of these, so I tend to collect this kind of stuff. If I get just general mats, these could be used as, large mouse pads or play surfaces. This one has the hexagons, the different green colors, but it's not depicting anything in particular. But this is one of the things that I just sort of buy addictively. If I see them around, I get them. Of course, some, and I'm going to hopefully roll this out without too much knocking the camera around. Sometimes they're very specific for very particular games or intellectual properties or whatnot. So I'm going to move the camera here so you can see this. Boom, boom, boom. the Fantasy Trip Octopus Lair. So the Fantasy Trip, for those who don't know, is a role-playing game from Steve Jackson Games that came out way back like in 1980. The Fantasy Trip Into the Labyrinth got like kickstarted in like 2019. So there are this was based originally on tactical medieval and fantasy games, the Melee and Wizards, and then they beefed it up into the full Fantasy Trip. So I love getting maps to use for role-playing games that could also be used for tactical battle skirmish games, but role-playing games, etc. Now, that being said, often one of the reasons that I buy these kind of products is not necessarily for the ASL or the these two front ones are ASL here. I'm going to move these over and it might slide back down, but here is one I bought recently on the Facebook Consim Marketplace. And this is sort of what spurred me on thinking about, why do I buy all these different things? I'll probably never play them, but I love using these geomorphic maps. So this one is specifically from Critical Hit, just like this is, but this was made for Advanced Tobruk system. And I really am not familiar enough to know what the differences with the maps are. I've never actually played Advanced Tobruk system. I've just bought the maps, modules that have maps and or counters, but I'm usually after the map. So this is a huge package here. So this has some map sections. I think there's 4. We're going to look at those, but it has counter sheets and rules and scenarios and all that. So I'm not going to look at this. This is not an unboxing of an ATS thing. This is, let's look at the maps, all right? So this here's Mannerheim's Cross. It's Finland at War. So obviously it's World War II. And so you got wintry terrain here. So these are typical geomorphic boards that look like Squad Leader, Advanced Tobruk system. And so you can put those together, long end, short ends, multiple boards. All right, so quick look at that. You got your various amounts of, stone or wooden buildings. You can have little orchards, frozen lakes, hills, etc. More of that here. So this is the main reason I bought these, but there's obviously a huge wealth of scenarios in there. So if you're a big fan of these systems and anything that you can do in ASL or ATS, you could convert back and forth between them. Okay, the amount of work can vary depending on which way you're going and how familiar you are with them. Now I'm going to set this aside. I'm not going to pack it back up, but we're going to quickly look at these other two here. Now, what I want to say is I started consuming Squad Leader stuff. I mean, I played Squad Leader a little bit, but I started collecting all the boards. I wanted all the boards, all those geomorphic boards, because I was using them for playing role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons and Dragon Quest and other games of the ilk, and I would use them for not like high-level wilderness hex crawls, but for like a local, wilderness hex. When you get into a certain area, there's points of interest on a map, or maybe you're exploring, but you could have the local village, hamlet, or whatnot. All right, so here, this one was the Peleliu, so that's Pacific Island, and so this has a particular style here to it. You can see the bunkers, fuel bunkers. So this is a historical map, it's White Beach 1 on Peleliu. Okay, so they have different sets of these, I guess, to get other beaches, etc. So I'm gonna read that, but there's the Philippine Sea north. There's the little Marine Corps symbol, the eagle, anchor, and globe. So that's a pretty nice map, and supposed to be historical. Some people like just the geomorphic. Some people like the historical maps. I, being who I am, and the obsessive acquisitive disorder that I have, I try to get them all. However, I am price conscious, so I do not go out and buy everything. I buy everything that I can get my hands on at a reasonable price. So that's my goal. Because if you want to eventually get everything, you have to, you have to budget for that. So we're going to take a quick look at the last one there, which is Pointe du Hoc. So that's Normandy, the Rangers landing at Pointe du Hoc. So this is another historical map. Again, it has counters and all that stuff, but here's a big overview on the back, kind of in just grayscale, but let's open it up. So over the weeks, months, years to come, I will do meandering around the map segments. And like I said, I will focus on different kind of things. One time I'm like, well, let's find my whole advanced squad leader collection, or let's look at all the role-playing game style maps that we have, or maps that I have created. Now, some of you have watched my Hex Encounter Memory segment on Panzer 44, and in that I show you the map that I created. I was somewhere between 14 and 16 years old in high school. I'd learned how to play Panzer 44 in like 8th grade, and I didn't actually play it against anybody until high school, but I created a map by hand on an old SPI blank map, and using felt, well, not your standard just felt pen, but like felt art markers. Okay, so this is a little glossy here, and it's kind of big. I'm going to pick up the camera and try to get, so Pointe du Hoc. So here's all the beaches. If you're familiar with that, if you've played Herman Lettman's Crowbar Rangers at Pointe du Hoc, that's very abstracted, and so like, the beach is just flat, and you have the cliffs. Well, there's actually this point here at the actual point. But in terms of practicality, you could call that a flat linear beach, and then it just made it easier to put the whole thing on grids. But here's the big road that they were driving towards to try to occupy and cut. There's multiple goals. There was cannons, guns all over in this area. That was the main Ranger goal, to keep them from firing on Omaha Beach. And then the secondary was to occupy this road. Now, I'm going into a little history lesson there. This is the map. So this is a historic map that shows you the area at near Pointe du Hoc. And so this is something that, you could try to convert or play using part of Herman's system on this, or maybe you're creating your own. I mean, obviously this is designed to use for advanced squad leader, but this is not something normally I would use in a role-playing game, unless I was electing to do like a World War II role-playing game, an alternate history thing or something like that. So there's that look at this historical map. All right, so I'm going to set the camera down here. So that being said, Meandering Mike here in the Man Cave of Madness. This was episode 1 of Meandering Around the Map, or Meandering Around the Maps, as the case is here. And future, okay, no promises as to when. Okay, so that's here's an object to focus on while I'm chatting. One of the things that I've said about my hiatus and ending my hiatus for my channel is that my commitment to you is I will make no commitments in regards to the channel. I'm going to work on content. I'm going to do it at a certain pace, but I'm not going to make promises as to exactly when and how much when these things will come out, because that was one of my issues. And I will be soon, hopefully this week, have a video out about, my hiatus, why, and what it meant, what are the implications of, and all that kind of stuff. So, I guess we'll call it quits here. Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, and I normally say, take care of your games and they'll take care of you. But in this case, I'm going to say, take care of your maps, and they'll take care of you. Because if you go into the lair of the octopus there, you want to be ready and healthy. And so take care of your maps, and I'll take care of you. Ciao, y'all.